matter what work-related visa you're applying for in Australia, whether it's a temporary work visa, whether it's an employer-sponsored visa, or whether it is a permanent visa of some sort, the occupation that you are in is actually really important. And that's because Australia is a smaller country. There is only a population of just over 20 million, I think, from last time I checked. And so there is a huge skill shortage. But obviously that goes in line with trends and what there is a demand for at that moment. So I think years ago, there was a huge shortage of accountants in Australia. And so at that time, accounting was a very popular occupation to be applying for on your skilled visa. And we've seen during COVID that there is a huge shortage of chefs and cooks because there weren't enough people coming from overseas. So there was a huge demand for chefs and cooks at the time. Today, I want to talk about the different occupations that are popular for migration in Australia. They could be for a temporary visa or to a permanent visa. My name is Tracy Chen and I'm an immigration lawyer based in Australia. I'm currently the principal lawyer at Mason Chen Law Group. If anybody needs any other migration advice, I'll drop a link below to our website where you can contact me or any of our lawyers. So today's topic will be top occupations for migration. Okay, I know what everybody's thinking, oh, she's gonna talk about the more popular occupations like nursing or social work or something like that. And yes, I am. It's definitely gonna be on the list because it is just the reality at the moment. So first of all, let's talk about nursing and in particular, registered nurses. So registered nurses in Australia is someone who's completed a Bachelor of Nursing degree. Now that's called different names across different universities, but obviously it's an accredited course. When you graduate, you'll be eligible to apply for your registration and licensing with AHPRA, which is the regulators of health occupations here in Australia. You'll also be able to apply for a skills assessment with ANMAC. So just to name a few universities, there's University of South Australia who do it, as well as Western Sydney University. They're just some universities to name a few. So don't forget, right now I'm specifically talking about registered nurses. So obviously during COVID, there was a huge demand for a lot of different healthcare workers and in particular nursing. But I'll tell you why it is actually very good for permanent residency. So once you graduate as a registered nurse, you apply for your AHPRA registration, you apply for your ANMAC skills assessment. You're eligible for a skills assessment basically right away. Yes, you won't be able to apply for a specific specialization unless you have worked in that specialization for over 3 months, I think. So for example, if you've worked in critical care for 3 months, you'll be able to get a skills assessment that's specific to registered nurse critical care. Or for example, if you worked as a surgical nurse for over 3 months, ANMAC, the specific skills assessing body, will actually give you a skills assessment with that specialization. But also when you actually graduate, there is specific programs that help people find jobs. And at the end of the day, nursing jobs are a lot of government jobs. So I feel like a lot of the nursing graduates, people who studied nursing, found it a lot easier to find a job, which then in turn becomes one of the requirements for employer sponsorship or general skilled migration anyway, whether it be the 491, 189 or 190 visa. That's why nursing is good. So let me just recap. Once you finish your degree, the accredited degree, you are eligible for your AHPRA registration. You are then eligible for your ANMAC skills assessment. And depending how long you've been working in that specialty, you could even get a specific skills assessment, which overall is not a huge issue. However, some states are looking for specific specialties. And because there are so many different companies, entities that hire nurses, right from, private aged care homes to community centers through to hospitals, there's a lot of jobs out there. And then just like other countries, Australia did go through COVID and a lot of the nurses here in Australia were overworked. And during that time, we definitely needed nurses. So for that reason, because from the time you graduate until you collect all your eligibility documents, it calls for a more seamless process. You'll see, for example, in general skilled migration, the key requirement is your skills assessment. And occupations such as registered nurse, it is easier to get a skills assessment. For example, an occupation like life scientist or an occupation like nutritionist, to even be eligible for a skills assessment, because it's assessed by a different skills assessing body, those ones are specifically assessed by BetAssess, you have to first get the job, work for 1 year, and then you'll be eligible. When you graduate, say for example, a Bachelor of Biotechnology or something like that, that is related to that field, the career outcome is usually a life scientist. It's so hard It's not common for university graduates to walk out and get a scientist role. Although there's many people who can score the job, it usually takes a bit of work. You have to do a few things before you can get there. Just like lawyers, a lot of people who graduate from a law degree, a lot of them walk out into jobs as paralegals, for example. Whereas with nursing, the programs are kind of there. When they graduate, they get their registration and you start working as a registered nurse. The other thing is that the salary is pretty good for nursing here in Australia. There are certain rates that apply to registered nurses and you're paid those rates. So I think in South Australia, it could be anywhere between 70k to 100k for the more senior positions. 70,000 to 100,000 Australian dollars, which is, I think it's pretty good. And then you also get your penalty rates and also overtime. So that's nursing, and I know that everybody's like, oh, here she goes again. But I really wanted to explain why it's so good. And then no doubt there's a huge demand at the moment. Hospitals are absolutely so busy. You've probably seen on the news that, there's people that are in the ambulance ramps because they just can't get a bed because the hospitals are just so over capacity at the moment. The next occupation I'm going to talk about is chefs. And there's a reason for this. So let me get into it.